Welcome to Obi-Wan Studios. Today's LEGO Star Wars review is on the 8037 Anakin's Y-Wing Starfighter. This set was one of the ones at the top of my list to add to my collection, and after grabbing a sealed example a little over a month ago, I'm just super excited to finally be able to make this review today for you guys. Anakin's Y-Wing released June of 2009 for $60 and retired at the end of 2010. Today, if you want one sealed in the box just like this one here, you are looking at spending around $300 according to sales data from Brick Economy. This set comes with 570 pieces and 3 total minifigures. We have Anakin Skywalker, Ahsoka Tano, and R2-D2. The box art for this set is really nice. It shows the Y-Wing above Christophsis, keeping with the theme of those early Clone Wars sets, all showing Christophsis in the box art. However, this set is clearly based on the Malevolence arc from the Clone Wars Season 1, specifically Episode 3, Shadow of Malevolence. Now that I own this set, I've completed really the main sets from the Malevolence arc with Plo Koon's Jedi Starfighter, and of course the Malevolence itself. And now it's time to unseal Anakin's Y-Wing. If you enjoy this review, please don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, as it's truly the best way to support a relatively new LEGO Star Wars creator like myself. And as always, let me know your thoughts on this set in the comments down below. Now let's open up this set. Inside the box, there is the instructions manual, a small sticker sheet with 2 Red Republic logos on it, and 8 unnumbered bags, which just brings me back to the days of opening up every bag into one big pile and then sifting through it all to find that one piece you need. When it comes to the instructions manual, there's just one thing that I had to point out. It's that the instructions tells you to build the lightsaber with the hilt on backwards. It's just funny, is that's kind of one of those cardinal LEGO Star Wars sins that you just don't do. Just had to point that out here in this review. Starting off with our minifigs, we have Anakin Skywalker. I really love Clone Wars era versions of Anakin. The Clone Wars style face print, while it isn't for everyone, I personally really do like this style of face printing on Clone Wars era minifigs. I also think the brown and black armor color scheme looks really good. The brown arms just breaking up that kind of all black coloring of the body really nicely. We don't get leg printing or back printing on Anakin, but for the time that was just par for the course, so you can't fairly judge these things by today's standards. Overall, I really like the Clone Wars version of Anakin. It isn't the best version of him that we've ever gotten, but there's certainly nothing wrong with it either. Ahsoka Tano is next, of course this being the early version of her character. I really like her Leku. I think the design and printing of it looks very sharp, and her Clone Wars face print is pretty good as well. Now the body printing is where the design of this version of her is a bit odd. I don't like the printed body sculpting on minifigs, and it is especially weird here as it's done for her top print, which has the black print on the outsides for the sculpting of her body, but then the rest of the body sculpting is done in orange instead of being a darker color, so it just matches the rest of the color scheme of her minifig. The funny thing is that I actually think this odd design choice looks better since the sculpting is less noticeable, but it still makes me wonder what they were thinking when only designing it and printing it for her top. Ahsoka's brown waist matches her belt printing very nicely, and then the gray legs work just fine too. This Ahsoka is a bit hurt as well by no back printing, where it's just a bit more jarring on her minifig with just a bright orange back for the top. But again, this was just the time in LEGO Star Wars, so we can't really compare it to modern standards. Overall, I like this original Clone Wars Ahsoka and can finally add this version of her to my collection. Lastly, we have R2-D2. He looks totally fine and as you would expect for the time in LEGO Star Wars. The head printing looks good on the front and back, and then the front body printing is pretty great too. There's no back printing on him, just like our other 2 minifigs. Overall, I really like the minifig selection in this set. From the episode, this is exactly what you would want. No complaints at all from me. And here is our Y-Wing build, and oh, I just love how this thing looks. I much prefer the together look of the Clone Wars era Y-Wings to kind of the original trilogy look, and if you watched my Captain Rex's Y-Wing Microfighter review, I mentioned how disappointed I was in us not getting an updated version of this build in those 501st colors. I think it would have just been such an incredible set because this one looks so good. The shaping of it was done just so well, especially for 2009. I just can't imagine how good a modern remake would have looked. Now, one thing I never noticed until I went back and looked at the source material from the Clone Wars for this review is how Anakin's Y-Wing is differently colored compared to the rest of Shadow Squadron's, which has an inverse of the color scheme on Anakin's. This is just something I never noticed and thought it would be cool to point out in this video. Kind of a shame we never got Clone Trooper Matchstick's Y-Wing, for example, as another set to go with this one, just with that inversed color scheme. Starting off at the front and getting into the details of the build, we have the two forward laser cannons. The Technic design here I think just works. The overall front section is shaped pretty nicely as well. That angle of it with the cannon sticking out looks really sharp, and then the shaping of the side panels is just great. The pieces placed sideways on the sides of the build and slowly sloping out at an angle really help make this build look so great. In the center of the front, we have our cockpit, and this printed windshield piece just looks fantastic. It's just a really great print on it. Lifting it up, we have a small printed control panel inside of the cockpit, and then the seat for Anakin to sit in and pilot his Y-Wing. Behind the cockpit, we have the gunner's seat. There is a bubble windshield, which is removed by lifting off the entire top section. Ahsoka fits in this part a bit snugly with her Leku, but she does fit. The main gun can tilt over 90 degrees up and down, and if you want to rotate it around, you can just place the top section to face on either side of the ship. Just below the gunner top bubble windshield piece, there are more windshield pieces on the sides and back, which is accurate to the way the gunner cockpit is in the show. It's for Ahsoka to essentially sit and look through them when not arming the guns, and while it's too small for her to really look through at the scale, it's a nice detail that we have represented in the build, so I really do appreciate it. Following the gunner seat, we have the astromech docking port for R2, and here we have a really cleverly hidden play feature for the build. If you tilt R2 back, he triggers the large Technic cannon on the underside to fire the main Y-Wing bomb. It works super well, and it's such a bonus that both the firing mechanism and the large cannon are hidden so nicely into the build. The midsection of the Y-Wing has a lot of graveling detail here, and this part actually tilts upward for the storage of both Anakin and Ahsoka's lightsaber, which just is a really great touch and use of space for this part of the build. The rest of the midsection I think is just shaped very nicely. The white top striping goes out towards the engines, and then there is more of those sideways pieces, but on the inside of the engines, they just add more shaping to this version of the Y-Wing. Then we have the engines, and these look so good. They are nice and proportionate to the rest of the build, as you would expect, and their design, I think, overall was really nailed. The rounded front ends look good, being that all white, which is nice and accurate to the show. The larger white strips that run the length of them against the yellow of the engines, I think was done very well here too. I really like how it kind of brings all of it together when it comes to the engines. On each engine, we have the sticker that is the Republic logo. Again, that Red Republic logo looks very good and is accurate to what we see in the Clone Wars, so I love having that detail added in there. Those pink translucent dish pieces for the back of the engines as well look really great just to kind of cap the whole thing off. Lastly, the build doesn't really have any landing gear. We do have this small hinge piece on the bottom that just kind of helps to support the build as it's sitting on like a table. It's a pretty just kind of basic system, and it doesn't do that much. Overall, man, I love this set. It was one I was struggling so hard to find, and then I just found it sitting on a shelf of a store I was checking out while on vacation. Building it and experiencing it for the first time for this review, it truly did not disappoint. It's such a fantastic build, especially considering that it's from 2009. Combine that with 3 great minifigs, this set, in my opinion, is a top-tier Clone Wars era set. It's pretty much flawless, and while $300 is a steep ask for it today, I still think it's worth it if you don't own this set already. Thank you for watching my review on the 8037 Anakin's Y-Wing Starfighter. Please subscribe if you want to support the reviews I make, and if you enjoyed the review, don't forget to hit that like button and let me know your thoughts on this set in the comments down below. And as always, don't forget to check out my YouTube channel for more LEGO Star Wars reviews.